Hello everybody! The Music Band is back, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. And I have a loaded week planned for you guys. So I needed a little bit of time to myself last week because I've just been sick and stressed with a lot of things at work, as well as trying to find a new place to live. So I just needed a little bit of rest for myself, and I hope that you guys understand that. But there are so many interesting albums coming out very soon, within like the next month, that I have no time to dilly-dally. So I'm going to make up for lost time. That means I'm not putting out 3 videos this week. I'm not putting out 4 videos this week. I'm putting out 5 videos. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 videos, 4 RU-ins, and in the middle, a 5-minute theory. So I got a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it. So let's get going with my first RU-in. And today we are taking a look at the newest Chance the Rapper album entitled The Big Day. Chancellor Jonathan Bennett, also known as Chance the Rapper, is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, actor, and activist from Chicago, Illinois. Now this is his first actual album, but he has gained some notoriety in the rap scene from mixtapes including 10 Day in 2012, Acid Rap in 2013, and Coloring Book in 2016. I first heard of him through Acid Rap when I was reading the best albums of 2013 in Rolling Stone. Acid Rap was one of them. Took a look, really enjoyed the laid-back sound, and overall I found Chance's style of rapping very fun and interesting to listen to. Coloring Book in 2016, I found a lot of the arrangements a little bit more mature and vulnerable and personal. I found some songs to be stand out, like Same Drugs and How Great, though I did also find some songs that were kind of annoying, including No Problem. But this was still one of the better albums of 2016 to me, and it was in, I believe, my top 20 of that year. I was excited to hear that he was dropping a full-length album. I was curious to see what he could do with that next step. So I took a listen, and the first time, honestly, I found it to be pretty solid. I was listening to it, honestly, not with the full intent that I did the second and third time, but I found the album to be pretty diverse, and I found some standout songs and standout ideas on there. Then I watched the Needle Drops album review of The Big Day, and Anthony Fantano absolutely roasted that album. If you were watching this video, you probably have watched the Needle Drops video of it, but if not, Cliff Notes, he gave it a strong 0, saying that he didn't like any of the songs, and he found a lot of the songs to be grating, a lot of the ideas to be not interesting, and when there were interesting parts, either the feature or Chance dropped the ball on the songs. After hearing that, I was a little bit worried about my particular opinion about it. Not saying that I was wrong, but I felt like there may have been something that I was missing. So I took a look again, and this album's a little bit of a disappointment. But I disagree with Anthony in saying that there is no musical merit to this album. This is not a 0, and I'll defend my case as we go along with it. Let's go with some positives first. A lot of this album feels a little bit like a concept album, where the concept of it is Chance talking about his family, his friends, where he's come from in the rap game, as well as focusing on his relationship and marriage with his now partner, Kirsten Corley. And I think that there are some pretty solid lyrics on a few of these songs. I think Do You Remember has some nice lyrics about looking at life at a simpler time and how things have changed as you grow up. We Go High has some nice ideas of keeping about faith and religion, especially on tough times within a relationship. Rue is a nice story about Chance and his brother Taylor and how things were in the Bennett household and now how things are in terms of the rap game. 5 Year Plan is a very vulnerable song about keeping a plan and trying to stick to it to see if you can become successful, but also realizing that you need to have moments in your 5-year plan to enjoy life and not take everything too seriously, because then things get a little bit out of hand if you just are focused on your goals rather than taking time to enjoy your successes. I like the idea of Get a Bag, where it's talking about working hard to get the things you dream of instead of only wishing about them, though I think the lyrics don't necessarily fit that mold the best. Sun Come Down, I think, has some of the best lyrics, talking about Chance's death and how he wants people to remember him, especially the idea of not to take any of his words out of context or never say anything that he would not say. And I think that's a very interesting idea. I think the first verse on there, really solid. And then even the second verse, even though it gets a little bit weird with the style change up, I think the idea of wanting people who would be there for his wedding and his marriage is interesting. And then the idea of mocking people who would just watch it on Facebook and be like, oh, he went to Jared, oh, her dress isn't great. All the naysayers. I think overall it makes for a very interesting and very vulnerable song. Town on the Hill also has some nice lyrics talking about finally making it and being in a loving relationship with someone and being there for the kids that they both have after, maybe failing in other relationships. In Zanies and Fools, to end it, does have some nice tying about having dreams and being able to accomplish them and making everything possible. I think it ends very well, even though I will say Nicki's rap on the end doesn't necessarily tie all the loose ends up on the album. The skits are pretty fun. I enjoy every one of the skits. Most of them have someone particularly famous on there. Photo Ops features John Witherspoon from the Boondocks, and it's a little skit about the two brothers fighting during a day with the family, and the father wants to take a picture, but they're always fighting, and it flows nicely into Rue. Four Quarters in the Black features Keith David, which you've seen him in many things, but I personally know him most with the Mass Effect series. And it's talking about being happy with your successes, but also making sure that you look forward into the future and think about your future. And that goes into 5-year plan. The other one is Our House, which has a conversation between a woman and the daughter of one of the people getting married. And it's a very cute story about how the little girl used to have to go between the mom and dad's house and would have dolls at each one. And now that they are together, now she can wake up and play with any doll that she wants. And it's really cute. So there are some positives there. And honestly, I still even think that there are some solid songs on here. Sun Come Down is very beautiful and very open, making for a very touching song. This is some of the best rapping that Chance does on the album, and it just makes for a very introspective look into his life and his thoughts. All Day Long has some great energy. It starts off with a bang, and it just is such a fun arrangement. John Legend does some great work on the chorus, and Chance has a great flow from the beginning. I will say his singing isn't great on this song, and that is one of the detriments of the album. Mostly his singing isn't great on this album, but I like the energy throughout that particular song. 5-Year Plan also has another beautiful arrangement and some of the best flows from Chance on this album, even though there is one part in the first verse that is a little bit weird because it messes with the timing, and then that never happens again on this song, which makes it think that it was either deliberate and it just feels weird, or he had this long rap that he couldn't condense and they had to add something else to it. It just feels a little bit weird. Randy Newman's parts on the chorus, not great, but his ending part, his spoken part, pretty interesting. And it does have some beautiful, soulful, gospel tinges on this song, making for one of the better arrangements on this album. Zanies and Fools, very solid closer. It feels a lot like a closer to a musical, where it starts slow and kind of cheesy, but it's nice. And then they bring in a lot of different percussion layerings and some choirs and some interesting chord progressions. It is a little bit long, but I do like the flow from Chance on here, and even Nikki does a great job as well. It does end a little bit weird, which is, to me, drops the ball a little bit, but overall, one of the better arrangements on this album. Eternal has a nice and groovy and funky feel, some great harmonies on the chorus, and Chance does have a smooth flow on here. Smino does solid enough with his verse, and he sings pretty well, making for a enjoyable song, even though the actual lyrical content about wanting to have someone there forever because side chicks don't do all the nice things that people in relationships can do is a little bit tone deaf, but a fun one nonetheless. Town on the Hill, a very atmospheric and a little lo-fi ballad. It does get a little bit preachy at times, but this is probably the best song to show off Chance's singing, and I just find this a breath of fresh air on this album. Do You Remember features Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie and has a solid chorus and some solid flows from Chance. It's not the best, but it does stand out as one of the better songs, mixing this like gospel song with a little bit of a more of a Bon Iver song, making for something that stands out on this album. And then rounding out the better songs on this album, you have We Go High, I Got You, Ballin' Flossing, and Rue. We Go High falls into the more introspective and slower songs. It doesn't have the most interesting arrangement, but Chance does the best that he can with this song. I will say though, at the end where he gets a little bit preachy about God, and that whole entire last part is a little bit too long and a little bit too draining. I Got You has this great 90s R&B feel, and it features En Vogue, Ari Lennox, and Kiara Sheard. The beginning of it is so much fun to listen to, but I think Chance here drops the ball with the style that he tries to sing on. It feels like something that would be suitable for the 90s R&B, but he seems like he's mocking the style, and it doesn't really work that well to me. And a great arrangement, but one where Chance drops the ball. Ballin' Flossing, also another fun arrangement, great energy. Features Shawn Mendes, who sounds a little bit like JT on this song, but he does a serviceable job. I enjoy a lot of Chance's flow, but it feels a little bit more like an interlude to me than anything else. And then Rue has some great flows from both Chance and Taylor Bennett on here. The arrangement isn't great, and Coco Rosie doesn't really stand out, but this is where the more solid songs end. And that's where we get a problem, because we already have gone through 11 songs and 3 skits, so that means we still have 8 more songs that we gotta power through on this 70-plus minute album. This is where we get to the crux of the problem, is that there's just too much on here and not enough room to space it out to keep the momentum going. There are some great stuff on the beginning, and the ending does pretty well, but the middle section is where Chance really drops the ball. And that's not even saying that the first 11 songs are spectacular. I would say the first 5 or 6 is where you don't really get a lot of problems. Even the first 3 is where I would say that they are serviceable and comparable to stuff that he has done on Acid Rap and on Coloring Book. Even though the first 6 is where I would say that I find a lot of interesting things and find a lot of the songs enjoyable. 7 through 11, you got some good stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that is lacking on there. 12 through 18, this is where we get some problems. Starting off with Slide Around, Handsome, and Get a Bag. All 3 of these are pretty similar in vibe. The only difference is the melody and the features on there. Slide Around, more minimal arrangement, features Nicki Minaj and Lil Durk. Nicki Minaj is much better on her rap than Chance does, and Lil Durk honestly kind of just destroys the momentum of this song, where that could have been a little bit better. Handsome has a decent chorus that's a little bit catchy, but Megan Thee Stallion does much better on her feature than Chance does, and you're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here when it comes to this stuff. Get a Bag Chance does actually better than Cowboy on here. Cowboy kind of just ruins the flow of this song to me. The chorus again is catchy, but there isn't enough of any of these three arrangements that makes it stand out. Big Fish and Hot Shower features these more trap beats. Big Fish has a decent chorus, but the rest of the song is very bland to me. It's with this song, Hot Shower, and Side Around, where Chance is boasting about successes in his life and all the great things that come with it, and they're kind of tone deaf in comparison to what else is going on in this album. Hot Shower, the blandest trap song I've heard on this album. There's literally nothing else other than the beat itself. Chance's raps come off very cheesy and comical, and no one else does anything that great to make this song stand out. And then rounding out these weaker songs, we got Single No More, Let's Go on the Run, and The Big Day. Find a Good One has a decent beat, but the vocals on there are kind of grating, and then Chance's raps are honestly very forgetful on this song. And then the ending part where it starts speeding up, it feels really out of place. That makes a pretty bad song even worse. Let's Go on the Run is very reminiscent, to me at least, of California from Childish Gambino's last album, but any great work that could have been with this pretty decent arrangement is destroyed by both Chance's vocals and Knox Fortune's vocals. Somehow they're both very grating and make for some of the worst vocals on the album. But somehow they are not the worst, because we got The Big Day, which is this song that features Francis and the Lights that is so weird and out of place. It seems to try to be more serious than it is. The arrangement isn't interesting, the melody isn't interesting, and it goes on a little bit too long before Chance has his freak out, and it just is so out of place. The song is supposed to be, from what I understand, about the big day of his marriage, and every verse is talking about only what to survive is to go crazy, and then he actually goes crazy at the end of the song where he's just going, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. And it just is so out of place and makes for, honestly, the worst listen on the album. And it's weird because out of all the people that are featured with Chance on this album, Francis and the Lights is one that he has worked with a lot of times. So to have such a lackluster song as the title track makes for a very bland taste in my mouth. It's unfortunate because I think there are some decent songs on here, but there are three parts that kind of ruin this album. The first one is the lyrics of a lot of the songs by Chance. There's a lot of similes, there's a lot of jokes, and it takes away from the messages of a lot of these songs. It just feels like he's trying to pad these songs to make them longer because he doesn't have the lyrical flow to make an interesting story. There are some times where it does work. I do like a lot of the imagery on Sun Come Down. I like a lot of the imagery on 5 Year Plan. And I think there's some great stuff on Zanies and Fools. But right from the get-go, from All Day Long, you get, from the first verse, you're getting so many puns and so many things that just doesn't really feel like it makes sense for what the lyrical content is. And that's throughout the album, and it makes it unfortunate because it's like, okay, just when you feel like you have the crux of the message, he throws in another joke. It's kind of like what Eminem's been doing lately, and there are some decent stuff, but it gets overshadowed by that. 2, there are way too many times where Chance comes off pretty sloppily with his raps or with his singing. And there's so many times where the feature overshadows what Chance does. There are only a few times where both of them work together in such a nice way that makes for an enjoyable listen. And then 3, every time there seems to be some momentum on this album, it's ruined by another bland song that just makes you want to turn off the record. Yes, there is some good momentum at the beginning. All Day Long, Do You Remember, Eternal, We Go High, and I Got You, and Rue are all part of that first 8. And even Photo Ops, you got a pretty decent skit there. But you have Hot Shower in there that kind of breaks that momentum for just a second. And if we were to go with like the last 8 of the album, you got Zanies and Fools, Town on the Hill, Sun Come Down, and you got 5 Year Plan. And you also have Our House, which is a nice skit. So 5 of those songs, pretty decent. But you also get a Bag, Slide Around, and Found a Good One, each being not memorable to kind of detrimental to the album. And then the middle third with 5 songs and 1 skit, you get some of the worst songs on the album. Let's Go on the Run, Big Day, Handsome, Big Fish, Ball and Flossin'. Ball and Flossin' is the only one that kind of is alright, but it feels like an interlude. So every time you try to get some sort of momentum, it gets dragged by another part of this album. For an album with 22 tracks and 70 plus worth of material, you need to have the momentum going throughout, or you're going to lose a lot of people. And it doesn't matter if the ending has some decent songs. You already have people getting tuned out by what you're putting out. So it's unfortunate, because if I put 14 tracks on here, if I did my favorite 11 songs and the 3 skits, I think you could have made a solid album. It wouldn't have been amazing. It wouldn't have touched Coloring Book. It wouldn't have touched Acid Rap. But as a first album, it would have been decent. Having that much material, it drags everything down. So it's not worth a full listen. But also, it's not a 0. I think there are some saving graces on here. So for that reason alone, I'm going to say pick and choose. And honestly, to me, the pick and chooses are follows: Sun Come Down, All Day Long, 5-Year Plan, Zanies and Fools. The best 4 songs on the album, even though 5-Year Plan and Zanies and Fools does have some problems with them. Eternal, even though the lyrics aren't great. Town on the Hill, Do You Remember, We Go High, I Got You Always and Forever, Ball and Flossin', and Rue. And then the 3 skits. You've got enough there. You're cutting about 20 minutes worth of material. Even though they're not amazing, I think all of them are serviceable enough where you can get enough of the message and still get what he wanted out there. And I think with 14 tracks, even with the problems of some of these songs, they would have been a little bit more manageable instead of having 22 tracks and everything just feeling too hectic or having too many problems. So it's unfortunate, but I'm willing to give this album a little bit of a pass, and I really hope to see what Chance can do on its next album. But that is the end of my time. Thank you so much for watching all of this, because this is a little bit of a longer one, but there was a lot to digest on this album. Let me know if you like or hate this album and your reasons why. Let me know other albums from 2019 that you would like me to review, share this with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel so I know that you enjoy what I do and want to see me make this channel bigger and better for the future. So tomorrow I'll be back with a little bit better and a little bit of a shorter Are You In? Until then, this is The Music Fan, and I'm signing off.